Welcome to the Point Podcast. I'm your host, Rinn, and my guest is Filip Crispino, a real estate broker. Filip was born in Arizona to Filipino parents who immigrated to the United States. Filip decided to study at CSUN, and in 1983, his parents and his brother joined him here in LA. Now, while studying at CSUN, Filip met his wonderful wife and they got married. So after graduation, Filip worked in the insurance business for about 11 years. But in 2014, he changed his career and became a real estate broker with Keller Williams in Porter Ranch. Now, Filip volunteered with SRAR and had many different positions. Filip and his wife and now four beautiful children, they live in the West Valleys. Now, Filip's business is really thriving and doing very well, and he contributes his success to his hard work, planning, and following with the right attitude and certainly with the right supports. So, Filip, can we ask you a few questions? Let me ask you this. Let me have this very first question. What brought you to real estate? I mean, insurance is a little bit different. Not very much because we're still with the same people. So talk to me.
Sure. I mean, with real estate, with insurance, I felt that I failed at insurance sales or just working in that type of environment that we were in. And my mom had always talked to me about getting a real estate license way back when I was 18. I never took her up on that. And then at that time when I really felt like, gosh, I don't think I'm going to do this all the way with the insurance industry and with this company and with this group of people, she and I decided to do our classes together. And that really motivated me and even inspired me to even do the classes. And though I ended up getting my license, she never did. But the fact that we were able to do that together was inspiring. And that was ultimately the motivation that I needed to just get into real estate. But also the fact that we were struggling financially very hard. In that time frame, my family, my wife had us on, we were on WIC, different government resources. My mom was really the one supporting us financially. So there's a part of me that was just like, gosh, as a father, as a man, I'm not even financially supporting us in this industry. And I felt at the time, if I really gave it my all in real estate, and there was no guarantee that we would make it, but if I really did the work and really put our best efforts forward, we'd not only take care of our clients, but we'd take care of ourselves. And then that was like ultimately the motivating factor that changed all of those pieces of our lives there.
Filip, and I've known you for a couple of years. We didn't really meet very much in the last year because due to this pandemic. But let me ask you, what's really important to you about success and what's really important to you generally?
It's really my family. I mean, there was a time my wife and I used to fight about money, and then, there was a time we fight about time and quality of time and the kind of lives that we want to provide ourselves, but more importantly for our kids. And so I feel like as the kids get older, they get into different things, and it just kind of really expands what we do in terms of improving ourselves and leading a great example for our kids to follow, trying to keep them in great growing circles and environments. And ultimately, I feel like there's a level of life that I've seen other people have and experience that I would like us to enjoy as well, with my mom, with my wife, with my in-laws, with my brother, with our kids, of course, all four of them. And so that's really a big part of it. And ultimately some sort of legacy, obviously where that's further down, but right now it's really about them, about our well-being, but really about the kids and family here.
Well, it sounds like a family is very important to you.
Absolutely.
Right? Why is that important?
Well, I mean, it was really ingrained in me. With my mom, she was always the one who said, "Hey, all else fails, you have your family." And then when we were blessed, my wife and I were blessed to have our son and eventually our daughter, it just became obvious that where we were at, career-wise and financially, we wouldn't be able to hit any of the goals that we told ourselves that we wanted to provide. And obviously having that in mind, became one of those things where we just invested in ourselves, invested in our business and the industry, and the industry has given back tremendously for sure.
So, okay, let me ask you this. Beside the family, which I can see, even my previous question, that it's very important to you, but beside your family and your children and parents and so forth, what else is important to you?
Well, delivering for our clients. Also, I mean, I really thought about it. I mean, everything just kind of comes back to our kids. And then if I take it on a professional side, obviously we want to hit new goals, new benchmarks, and do well for our clients every which way. And maybe down the road have a way for us to retire and do the things we want to enjoy. But I feel like everything that we do right now is tied back to our kids one way or the other. Before it was tied to each other and some friends, and of course our family, our parents and our siblings. But after the kids came around, it just kind of everything's centered around them. Our schedule's centered around our kids' lives. Where they go to school and everything else is we kind of gravitate towards that. Even where we moved to, we kind of moved in a place that kind of fit where they go for Cub Scouts or they go for school and everything else.
Everything is right there. Yes.
Right.
I can understand. As I told you, I was just up in Vail on my granddaughter's graduation. She graduated from high school, and it was very, very good. Filip, it sounds like that that you got your head screwed on the right way, because family is very, very important to me as well, and as I can say to you. A lot of the realtors I talk to, and they talk about the client satisfaction and the money and so forth, which is also very, very important. But to me, and it sounds like to you, is the family is the most important thing.
Absolutely. I think anytime I drifted from that, my wife would remind me, and that's been a positive anchor for me to just make sure, hey, this is what's most important. Everything else just kind of finds a way to fit itself wherever it fits. But it comes back to her, the kids, each other, and here we are.
You almost sound like my wife, and I ask her what's really important to you, and she tells me to love you because you're the second person I love the most. I said, who is the first? And she says, God.
There it is.
Okay. Initially, when I met you, we used to meet in that, Ventura Boulevard, in that, whatever, Denny's or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah. IHOP, Corky's.
Right. And so let me ask you something. Now, you've been involved with SRAR, and because this is going to go out to a lot of realtors, this podcast, tell me, why did you get in, or what prompted you to get involved in the board, or tell us a little bit about your experiences, the capacity you were in, and so forth. Because, by the way, before I forget, you're doing a great job. I get I don't know how many emails from you for the Friday morning meetings.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. Well, there's really two people to thank for that. Bud Morrow, awesome professional. Man, I owe a lot about how I understand real estate, organized real estate, to Bud. And then second would be Elizabeth DeCartier, who effectively runs SRAR with Tim Johnson and Kit Young and a handful of other people there. And so Bud ran this network meeting, from what I understand, for 40 something years,
That's
practically right. a long time. And every Friday he would have a guest speaker, and a friend of mine, Alex Soriano, had invited me. I wasn't licensed, but I felt like, wow, this is a great group. When I get my license, I'm going to come back. And as long as they let me back, I'll keep coming back.
Yeah.
And one of the guest speakers was Elizabeth DeCartier, and she had talked about the board. Like, what does the board really do? At that point, I had paid my fees and dues and all this stuff. And you're so new to business, you don't really understand what's being thrown at you, right? You just kind of...
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. You're just kind of thrown to the wind, and you just kind of figure out as you go along. Well, those Friday morning meetings with Bud Morrow and Valerie Miranda and a plethora of other people there, as a group of leaders, I learned from them that they constantly gave back. Like, if I look at Winnie Davis, Nancy Carnahan, Tom Carnahan, Roger Hans, you just go through the line, Mel Wilson, they have long careers in real estate, in the business, and in investments within real estate, and they always found a way to give back at different parts of their career, right? You know, later on, you can donate more time and be a president and contribute even more on with that experience level. But they always, to me, found ways to give back. And every time I went to a training course, it shortened my time frame in understanding our business, whether it was about 1031 exchanges, leases, condominiums, how loans work, how VA works, all of those things. And I thought, wow, so they actually volunteer. And what I found in volunteering was that A, I was able to actually give back to a profession that I felt was giving to me tremendously. But B, I also learned how to communicate with other leaders. You know, what was important? How did you stand out? There's a certain level of professionalism that you kind of absorb and experiences you absorb from those people. You know, everyone that I just mentioned, anywhere between 30 to 40 years or 20 to 40 years plus in the industry, plus experience as investors and entrepreneurs and family people, like good people that really care about their families, care about their clients, care about the type of business they do. And that was what drew me to that. And that's what kept me ultimately volunteering, because I would meet Emily Roberts. People gave back to their community tremendously without any expectation for gain, by the way. They weren't expecting that they would get deals back from their community service, but some way, somehow, they became better people. I became a better person for it. And at the same time, business is kind of attracted to me. But I truly appreciated the fact that the industry was pouring a lot into me, in a sense, of all the free classes and training available, and what the board and organized real estate was doing on the background of things, that naturally I just said, wow, if I can give back to that and learn at the same time, triple win for everybody, including the clients especially.
Now, staying on the same subject, you know, that we know that a lot of the realtors or real estate agents, or they come and go, they getting into the business, then they get out. So what would you recommend to new agents coming into the industry now? How could they get involved in it, just like you did? What they need to do, or what would you suggest to them?
Well, I found, at least with SRAR, I've noticed that they do have like entry-level areas where people can volunteer, whatever ultimately calls them. But there's subcommittees and different events. I found that training is just of the utmost importance, especially when it's your first time in business, or for all of us who got into real estate, your first time being a realtor. The training never really stops. And what a place to be, whether I'm sure Gavar and other places have their element of training, but to just make training and education a part of your schedule. You know, even to this day, I block out 8 to 8:30. We have a mastermind group that I'm a part of. You know, I've got the Friday network meetings with the Real Estate Network with Brian and Tom and Claudia and yourself and others. You know, so I already built those into the weekly schedule. And as far as anything goes, I work around those times, knowing that I'm going to improve myself through it. And so for a newer agent, it may be hard to commit to like a full-on committee, but if you can plug in to at least the education portion of it, everything else can flow after that. So when you lead off with education and training at your office, training on Zoom, self-education, training at the board on Zoom, everything else will kind of fill its role. As realtors, we find ways to give back to our community, right? So that's probably the best place to start, is at home. And my wife always reminded me, hey, before you start giving your time to Panorama City and all these places, give your time here at the house. She's always reminded me of that. So once you take care of that, everything else kind of flows.
So would you say to anybody who is interested to contact the board, contact Elizabeth or somebody, or have any recommendation as far as whom to contact? If they want to get involved in any, or maybe they should initially talk to their broker. I'm not quite sure.
Absolutely. I think every office has their own little thing. I mean, KW has the Associate Leadership Council, and I'm sure other offices have a version of that that's agent driven and focuses a bit on giving back to the community. With our local board, I mean, for someone brand new, my focus is that they get into production through education. They educate themselves, they educate at the board, they educate with a mentor or productivity coach or at their office, and they work on their skills and on their business so that they can be in business, right? I find this could be a little sideways, but I find it hard to volunteer when you're not making the business. So, I mean, there's a two-way street, right? I mean, it's hard to give time when you don't have time yet, or you're on a limited schedule. So finding ways to give initially might be hard to commit to a full-on standing committee, but plug in and volunteer with the education events where you're there as a student. And then from being a student and being a professional realtor, whether on a team, independent, working with a mentor, productivity coach, then it evolves. I feel that's where most realtors should be. I mean, we want to give back, but I think we can start with education, plugging in that way, and then growing into a more robust volunteer role. So I think a lot of times we start as attendees and then we as students, and then we grow from there. No worries.
I have too many phones here. That's my problem. Let me just change the subject a little bit. What books do you read?
Well, I read, Think and Grow Rich, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, The One Thing, Extreme Ownership. Recently, I got into an app called Blinkist, so it gives me the Spark Notes or the Cliff Notes of all of all the books, and I go out and pick and choose. Currently, I'm reading. Oh my gosh, I had the book on me. Simon Sinek is the author. Start with Why is the name of the book. And that's a book I'm currently reading. But the books that really resonated with me were any book by Jim Rohn, The 5 Pieces of the Life Puzzle.
Jim Rohn? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Do you like Maxwell? What is the first name?
John Maxwell. Yes, you actually gave me that copy of that book.
He is very
Never forget
amazing.
that.
Oh, Jim Rohn was incredible. I saw him the first time we came to the US, which was in 79. I must have seen him about 81, 82 in Denver. I was blown away the way that gentleman was. Let me ask you this question. We know that the market is absolutely crazy, the real estate market. We had the best year last year ever. And this year is very, very good, multiple offers and so forth. But still, there are a lot of people who think that we're going to heading for a recession. Now, how you address this when you're talking maybe a new prospect or an old client? Tell me. You're telling me, but you're telling to the audience that they like.
Absolutely. I share these 5 things, and to be honest with you, I got this from Gary Keller, and he had shared 5 things that could derail our current market. And the first one was that we have some sort of epic national natural disaster, or something along the lines of a World War III, or mass earthquake and mass hurricanes and all this stuff that just really derailed everything, right? We're talking like epic proportions. Number 2 was that government steps in and penalizes people for owning property, common homeowners like you and I, and then they form some sort of taxation or some sort of fee that makes home ownership, not a very leverageable thing anymore, right? So where it doesn't make sense to even own a house, which we don't see as a plausible item. Number 3 is that companies like Blackstone sells off their portfolios. All of a sudden, they flood the market with 10 to 20% of their portfolio, and all of a sudden it crashes the real estate market, right, from a purchase standpoint. Number 4 is that this would actually be a good thing, but it would be a harmful thing if there was too much building of real estate. They overbuild homes, which we know they're yeah, exactly. They're way behind schedule, at least here in California. And then number 5, of course, is the rates doubling, tripling, or quadrupling, getting to a point where in order to combat inflation, the Federal Reserve raises it. From what I understand, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the Federal Reserve has it locked in until about 2023, as they expect to artificially keep rates low. So we're talking about a window of time here, and who knows, maybe it could go up tomorrow. they could double it tomorrow for whatever reason. But that's a real life conversation I have with my clients, especially those who are thinking that, hey, I'm going to wait for the bubble to burst. Okay, let's wait together, right?
Man.
Right. And I picked this up from a few, from Manny Tyus and some other folks that I've gotten to respect and work with. People ask, when was the best time to buy real estate? And his answer is a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
I obviously get the same questions being a mortgage lender and a real estate broker. I get the same questions, but I never forget this. The very first home I ever sold was in Australia, in Sydney, Australia.
Wow.
And these three people walked into this brand new 12-unit condominium building, right? And there was only 2 units left, a 2-bedroom and a 1-bedroom. And they walked into this 1-bedroom unit, and as it turned out, they were the aunt and the uncle for this lady who wanted to buy something. The price was $2,200. $10,200. And they asked me what I think if it's the right time to buy. Well, the Sydney market is very hot, just like here. In fact, I was talking to my friend last night. You wouldn't be able to buy that condominium today for $1.5 million.
Wow.
This is about less than 2 blocks to the Bondi Beach, which is one of the biggest surfing beach in the world.
Wow. Holy cow.
So anyway,
how about the rate of return on
that's my
that?
answer. I don't think, but admittedly, a lot of people lost money in 10 years ago, or 2008, 2009. And, I do weekly videos, and I did a video, it's deja vu, that people, are we back in what happened in 2007? And I explained to them it's not. Because
it's a very different environment.
Because the market always changing, but that was a totally different market. So some people are still afraid, and a lot of realtors still afraid. Okay, let me ask you this: what we talked a little bit about it, but what would you suggest to a brand new agents coming in, right? Because I know that most companies providing incredible training, Keller Williams, one of them, and basically everyone providing some kind of training. Okay. In fact, I think sometimes that some of these new realtors get too much training because they get so much material so quickly. They just don't know how to handle it. So what would you say how to start off that they're not going to quit in 6 months or a year or something like that?
Absolutely. I think the mistake I made, and I can speak from failure, is that I didn't work closely with a mentor. Like, I had my friend and he was doing his thing, Alex Soriano, God bless him. And I thought, gosh, I let my ego get in the way. And, for all intents and purposes, maybe it benefited me down the road. But I think my career would have been off to a much stronger start if I had allowed myself to work with a fellow realtor and mentor under that person. Kind of like you watch basketball players, even if they do 1 year at the university or 1 year in the G League or 4 years at the university and then they transfer into the NBA. I really felt, looking back in hindsight, I'm happy how everything turned out, don't get me wrong, but in hindsight, I would have told my first year self, hey, work on this guy's team, work closely with them, be their runner, show homes, but do it within the confines of the team. Don't get caught up in thinking, wow, I'm going to make less working on the team. Think of, no, I'm investing in myself, because you're 1,000% right. There's so much information coming in. You only capture what you need at the moment, right? The rest of it just kind of hopefully gets filed in the back of your head. But for new people getting on board, first of all, interview a handful of agents you feel, hey, are doing okay, and find out what they would do, and yourself better than anyone else. But at the same time, I would have told my past self, like, hey, take the moment, take the 18 months. You'll make a little bit less than what you would make on your own potentially, but you know what? You're going to be in a much stronger space for it. Again, I don't regret anything, but if that was something that I could pass on,
you try to help the newbies to not to make the same mistakes, because we
absolutely,
all make mistakes. You know what I mean?
definitely.
I wish I didn't make all that many mistakes, but I did. But okay, just to recap what we talked about we talked about what's really important to you, and it was the family. And
Absolutely.
I think that is showing a lot of character principles on your side, because a lot of people don't think of the family. They want to perhaps just want to make money or whatever. So the suggestions to anybody to don't forget the family.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I wanted to kind of add to that, what we do in whatever career we're in, whether we're a teacher or nurse or law enforcement, realtor, lender, business, the idea is what that money or that income provides for our family, right? Sure. I mean, it's whatever that number is to pay all of our bills on a per month basis, or, we have that number and it's great. Okay, let's do the work to hit those numbers and provide. And then how do we get to a point where we can save beyond what we're providing for and other goals that come along. And so as we do it, like, yes, the families we help and the transactions we do, it does compensate us. But the idea isn't for us to just have a pile of money that we just sit on. No, the idea is how do we bless our family? How do we bless others? Finding little ways to give back within our community circles, within our families, within our profession, and giving back. And I got this from Jim Rohn, and he would say, giving begins the receiving process.
Right.
And then my wife, like I said earlier, reminds me, well, giving starts at home. I was like, got me on that one.
And would you say the second point would be to join the association? I mean, they have to
automatically
they get it, but get involved with the association, and don't think that it's something out there, but get involved and learn from the people who working at it and love the profession. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you get certain elements from your brokerage or wherever you plant your flag to do business, and then you get certain elements from your board of realtors. And then there's you in between, right? And then above you, you have your faith, your family, you've got other things that you put study and time into. And all of that feeds into the person, into the business owner, into the entrepreneur, into the realtor. We can't avoid that either. We got to kind of look at all of those pieces. And if you miss one piece of the puzzle, that's one piece of the puzzle that doesn't help you help a client that someone else will help because they're just more knowledgeable and in a better situated professionally to help them, right? I take whatever analogy you want, but it's kind of like being Batman. Batman, you had to do boxing, you do jiu-jitsu, you knew all these fighting techniques, but he took it from so many different teachers. And in real estate, God bless that there are people like yourself, Lewis, and there's people like Huton and Brian Heckhoff and others who take the time to teach others, take the time to share their knowledge. Because if you think about this, like, why do you read a book? Well, if you read a book, the average author is 40 years old. Yeah, you have some people, outliers, who are writing it at 21, but the average author is 40. So every book that you read, it's like you're absorbing 40 years of experience. Right? Yeah. And then every professional out there is willing to share their time. They're sharing literally 20 to 40 years of their experience with you in a 2-minute conversation, or just by being a fly on the wall and absorbing kind of the stuff that they see, right? Or have seen, and what the stuff they failed through. So by the time I see it happening with the client, I see it happening in the field, I see it happening in the market, it's like, wait a minute, Bud has told me about this before. I don't have to live it. I just have to remember what he told me, go through my notes, and say, okay, this is how we're going to handle this situation. Or you're in an escrow and you're like, gosh, how do we need an attorney, we need this, we need that. Wait, we know exactly what we need to do. I learned this from Frank Balvo. Boom, we insert solution into our situation. And that alone just kind of paves the way to save on heartbreak and mental ache as well.
And Philip, would you say the third takeaway would be to, whatever you do, get a mentor?
Yeah, I definitely say so. Whether it's in a group setting, privately, there's so many people who are willing to give back in this industry. It's amazing. That's what I found through the board, and even at the previous office I was with, the office that I'm here with now. There's always a strong group of people who want to give back, and then find a way to give back yourself. I mean, there might be a newer agent down the road who you can help kind of walk through the ropes and still teach from some of your failures and from a lot of the stuff that you learned and actively use. Those are real life things. And but yeah, keep your priorities straight, keep what's important to you, a family in my case, and God, and not necessarily volunteer, but plug into your board of realtors. And if you're brand spanking new, even if you have a sales career prior, plug in with someone who's actually willing to teach you the business while they're doing the business. All of those pieces kind of flow together.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but the old saying that experience is the best. How they say? Experience is the best trainer, but it's always better to learn somebody else's experience, right?
That is so true. No, I'm with you. I've heard it as, if you do something you failed, you gain experience. If you learn from someone else's failure, you gain wisdom.
Right.
Right. And so in our world, it's like, goodness, like you probably learned on YouTube, but the fact that you can learn it from someone who can break it down and explain it, I feel that's wisdom in and of itself. So I don't have to necessarily live through that experience. I can see it because someone else has shared it with me or taught it to me, or I read about it or watched it, and then we can apply it in the field of our profession.
Well, Filip, I really thank you for your time. We spend a little time here, and obviously a lot of people is going to learn from your experience and from your wisdom and from your knowledge. And I just wanted to thank you once again. But if anybody wants to contact you, is there any other way? Would you like me, if anybody contacts me regarding you, to give them your number or email or something, or you like me to put it on the podcast?
Absolutely. I think text message is really the best way. Or if they find me on Instagram, Filip with an F, or just my Facebook, Filip Crispino, or Team La Familia on Instagram, Team La Familia Real Estate on Facebook, or they can call, text 818-635-6743. Email is great too, but I think call or one of those messaging platforms are great.
Well, I just want to finish it by saying that Filip is very, very successful in his business, and he contributes his success to planning, to hard work, to the right association, and all of the above to succeed. So once again, Filip, thank you very much, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Lewis. Appreciate you too. Thank you.
All the best. Bye.
You too.